Today we are talking about something that a lot of us deal with, and that is those painful little blistery cold sores that appear on our lips or possibly in your nasal cavities. So if it's around your mouth, around your nose, it is the HSV1 virus, the herpes simplex virus. If it is your genitals, it is generally the HSV2 virus. We're going to be talking really around your mouth, your nose. If you have cold sores around your genitals, often a lot of the treatments that I will suggest today can also be used down below. Welcome to my channel. My name is Kate. I share a weekly video with you every Monday around something related to menopause. Cold sores is something I wanted to cover because it's that time of year. They can be really uncomfortable. Often it is the more extreme weather that can bring that on. But because through menopause, with your declining estrogen often, and also declining progesterone, because that is your calming hormone to a degree, you might find that you have a greater occurrence of these horrible little critters appearing. During your period years, you may also have found that they tended to arrive just before a period started. You might find that you're getting more of them now that you've gone through menopause and midlife. So today I'm going to break down why it actually happens, the various things that you can do over the counter, and also holistically DIY recipes that you can do at home. If you look in the description box underneath this video, there is a freebie that I have created for you. You don't need to sign up with your email address. It is useful, and it's a sort of a long-term plan for when you're feeling a little bit under the weather, what you can do as a boost, and what you can do as sort of long-term prevention, and some topical things that you can make at home if you want to, that are going to soothe that virus appearance. Now, because it's a virus, antibiotics will not work on it. You can't go to the doctor and say, please may I have antibiotics because I keep getting these cold sores. That will not happen. Cold sores, when they appear, they feel a bit like a tingle, and then it might get red and swollen. Sometimes they can crack, sometimes they can weep. It almost looks like a little cluster of little heads, little sore heads that, depending on certain circumstances, sometimes they might be worse than others. When you get that tingling sensation, that is often when you want to start with the remedies as soon as possible. It lives in the nerve endings. So because through menopause, estrogen's falling, estrogen really is largely responsible for the welfare of our mucous membranes. Our skin gets thinner. Our immune response is not as effective as we go through menopause and beyond. So while the virus may have been lurking there all these years, you never even knew it was there. You may have been plagued with them since you were younger. Often we pick them up in our teenage years, like kissing, sharing, eating utensils, even sharing the same washcloths, flannels, towels can spread the virus. It's quite an easy virus to catch. So if you've got it, there is no shame around it. There are all sorts of ways you can catch it. And while I talk about that, I'm also going to mention that next week I'm going to be dealing with vaginal bacteriosis. That is something also that you might be getting more of as you've gone through perimenopause and menopause. Again, it relates to those mucous membranes, but it's a slightly different subject matter. So I thought, rather than trying to cram it all in one today, that I'll deal with bacterial vaginosis next week. So often cold sores arrive with the more extreme weather, but also when you're under more stress. You might be having that menopause fatigue. I have got several videos on fatigue and also your adrenal health. So I'll link one of them here. I'll link a couple others in the description box below. So if you want to explore that in more detail, fatigue is one of those things that so many of us struggle with through the menopause and beyond. And it might be one of those symptoms that you seem to have a lot longer than some of the other symptoms, like your hot flushes, like the irritability, the joint pain, etc. So firstly, a couple of things you may not actually have heard of before: lysine and arginine, or L-lysine and L-arginine. They are both amino acids. Now, they are both important to us. But the balance of lysine and arginine is really important if you struggle with cold sores. And you might find just by giving a temporary boost to your lysine, you can get, in fact, I'll link it in the description box, you can get lysine tablets online just by having a bit of a sort of a boost in the first few days of the cold sore appearing. Oftentimes people notice a significant improvement on what the cold sore develops into, and also how long it lasts. And that's without any other treatment too. So none of the topical creams or anything, literally just the use of L-lysine. Arginine is an amino acid which the herpes virus loves. So when you're eating or drinking more arginine strong foods, you might want to just back up on those temporarily if you're going through an outbreak of cold sore or cold sores. Lysine is an amino acid which actually blocks arginine, so that slows the virus down. And it's not that you get cold sores because you're deficient in lysine, it's just that the balance might need a little bit of a tweak in your favor during the outbreak of a cold sore. So foods which are high in arginine, and these are the ones you want to temporarily cut down on if you're struggling with a cold sore: dark chocolate or organic cacao, oats, nuts and seeds. So if you start your day off with oats every morning, maybe back that off. Instead, have something like an omelette, because eggs are good for lysine, with some green beans and maybe a slice of sourdough bread or toast. Lysine is easy to find. It's as long as you eat meat or fish, you're going to get enough lysine. It's things like chicken, turkey, fish, eggs, dairy, quinoa. Some legumes are really, really good, although quinoa is actually pseudo cereal. However, if you're eating a normal, healthy, balanced diet, you're likely to be getting enough lysine. Like I mentioned a little bit before, you could try the lysine supplement to begin with. There is a lot of good anecdotal evidence pointing to the fact that it may be a couple of tablets of lysine, one in the morning, one in the evening, on the first 3 days of getting that tingling can significantly positively impact your experience of the cold sore. But if you're on medications, always check it first. B vitamins are always going to be beneficial. The B vitamins support your nervous system. Again, most of us get B vitamins from our food. If you are a vegan, make sure that you're taking a vitamin B12 supplement. Normally things like nutritional yeast or fortified vegan foods might mean that you're getting enough vitamin B12. But that is, if you get it naturally, the only way you can get that is through animal products. You can also get a vitamin B12 cream that you can use topically on your cold sore. There's mixed reports as to whether people find that helpful or not. It might be worth a try. There are probably other things I would try first, but you know, if you've exhausted the others, it might well be worth trying the B12 cream and just see if that might work for you. I think, yeah, we're all so unique and we all have different, you know, microbiomes in our gut, on our skin, up our noses, in our mouths, etc. So it might be that vitamin B12 would be very beneficial for you, but there are mixed reports on that one. Other dietary helpers are cruciferous vegetables like your cauliflower, your broccoli, your Brussels sprouts. They are brilliant for getting rid of excess estrogen in any case during the menopause. They're great for your gut health. I mean, they're just really good vegetables to eat lots of. Anyway, however, when we're talking about cold sores in particular, they contain indole 3-carbinol, which may inhibit the replication of the herpes virus, so essentially slow it down and also make sure that the outbreak is not as severe as it may otherwise have been. Keep hydrated. Vast majority of us do not drink enough water. In cold climates, in hot climates, you need to be drinking your water. To know how much water to drink, you want to take your body weight measured in pounds, divide that by 2, and the answer is how many fluid ounces you should aim for. So if you weigh 140 pounds, you want to be drinking around about 70 fluid ounces as a minimum every day. Sugar is a massive one. So if you struggle with fungal infections, yeast infections, you'll know how bad sugar is. The same applies to cold sores or the herpes virus. So if you can limit your sugar, cut out the sweets, cut out the cakes, cut out the cookies, the biscuits, cut out the wine or the beer or the cider, if you can. I only pull a funny face because I love my glasses of red wine in the evening. But if you're really struggling with cold sores, just cut out any type of sugar, and that also includes artificial sweeteners. So go sugar-free. The only aspect of sugar that you would consider is honey, and that is one of the DIY treatments I'll share with you in a minute. Fermented foods. Now, if you followed this channel for any amount of time, I'm always banging on about fermented foods. I'm also always banging on about adaptogen herbs. They're coming in a minute. Fermented foods just help boost your immune system. Our gut microbiome is so integral to your immune system. Around about 70% of your immunity is in the gut. Also, around about 90% of your serotonin, so one of your happy hormones, is created in the gut. You'll sleep better if your gut health is good. One of the easiest things that you can do if you want to improve your gut health is to make your own sauerkraut. But essentially, sauerkraut, very, very high in bioavailable vitamin C, great for your gut health. You can't really go wrong with it. One of the most important things when you're making sauerkraut is to make sure that literally all of your cabbage and or any other ingredients that you might want to use, I always add celery, apple and carrot into mine, sometimes some black peppercorns as well. All of that is well beneath the brine because it's an anaerobic fermentation process. You can use things like paperweights, you can use things like jars filled with water and maybe paperweights to make sure it's all pushed down really significantly beneath the brine so that it will then ferment into a really delicious sauerkraut. Normally you would leave it for sort of 7 to 14 days. My last batch of sauerkraut, which I think was my absolute best, I left that for about 40 days, 40 days, just because I was traveling at the time. And it is absolutely gorgeous. I always use red cabbage and white cabbage, so it gives it this beautiful pink color or red color. So don't be afraid to try out sauerkraut. There's very little that can go wrong with it, and it will serve you so well just to add a little bit of sauerkraut to one of your meals or 2 of your meals every single day. Now on to adaptogens, because in the good old days when I was working for Body, I had a shake that included 8 of them, and I swore by that shake. I still swear by it, but unfortunately they don't sell it in the UK anymore. I wish they did because I'd still buy it. It was quite pricey, but I think it was worth every single penny that it cost. The adaptogens that I've sort of thinned down to now, rather than having a cupboard full of them, Reishi is one of the best ones that you can take for overall immune support. Now you might think, oh, well, Echinacea, I take Echinacea too. Echinacea is a herb, it's not an adaptogen herb, and I'll come on to Echinacea in a bit more detail in a minute. Reishi is one of those, if you're through the menopause and like me, you might be under a lot of stress. I've been under a long period of stress it just seems to have gone on for ages for various different reasons. We've had multiple griefs, I've had a job loss, I've had worry about money and all sorts of stuff that's happened. Some of the big stressors on the stress chart. And I was worried that I would develop an autoimmune disease because that is often what happens when you've had a long period of stress. Not all the time. I mean, I'm really healthy, but it was the one thing that was niggling in the back of my mind. I do not want to develop one of these autoimmune diseases because of this long-term stress that I've been under. So I was looking into the adaptogen herbs in a lot of detail. Maytake is another one that's good for stress relief, as well as Astragalus. I used to take both Maytake and Astragalus in this blend of adaptogen herbs that I took every day. However, when you break it down, if your immune system is a little bit compromised, if it's almost edging towards that autoimmune disorder, and you won't really know that unless you get then diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, but if you feel like you're ticking a few of the boxes, long-term stress, serious stressors, you might be safer with Reishi because it's just a nice immune support, whereas Maytake and Astragalus, Maytake in particular, if you're on that borderline of developing an autoimmune disease or disorder, it might just be enough to tip your immune system into that hyper work that is part and parcel of an autoimmune disease. Essentially your immune system starts to attack its own immune system or your own immune system. So read with caution on those, and that is part of that download that I'm offering in the description. Echinacea is a herb that you may have heard of. It's a very popular herb. It's brilliant if you need a short-term boost. So if you feel like you've got a cold developing, you've been around people that may have COVID or they've had the flu or chickenpox or something, you might then want to take Echinacea just to give you a little bit of a boost. When my dad died, I went from cold after cold after cold after cold. He died in August, the 1st of August. So it was a lovely time of year. It was really sunny. It was really warm. And I love being outside. I'm outdoors as much as I can be. So I was getting plenty of sunshine, fresh air, and I could not get over these continuous colds. And each one seemed to feel worse and worse and worse. And it was my auntie that reminded me of it. It was stupid because I'd given the children Echinacea when they were little in drops at school. Whenever there was somebody with a sniffle, added drops of the children's Echinacea. I just did not think about it for myself. And my auntie said, have you tried Echinacea? It's just like, duh, why haven't I started Echinacea? It's like, duh. And I think because obviously my dad dying, I got my mind on other things, and my marriage was breaking down at that time too. So I hadn't really thought about what might support me. And so I started taking Echinacea, and literally within probably 3 days, it was like a shadow lifted. It was almost as though I could feel me coming back. And of course, I was still grieving my dad, and we still had the funeral to do. And oh, it was awful. But I just felt like I had a little bit more oomph in the background. And I literally swear it was that Echinacea that did that. So Echinacea is one of those that you want to take just for a short period of time. And then once you've managed to stave off the cold, or you feel like you're out of that sort of risky zone, then stop taking Echinacea, save it again until you get it in tablet form. I'll link an Echinacea that I use in the description box below, and that works really, really well for short-term boost. Other antiviral and supportive foods are garlic. Use that in your food. Some people do say rub garlic on the cold sore. I think that's probably going to be a bit too irritating. I've also seen people say put apple cider vinegar on it. It's just like, I think that would sting. Just be cautious if you do that. But garlic, if you can eat garlic every day and maybe 1 or 2 of your meals, you will really be boosting your antiviral properties within your immune system. Obviously, honey is beneficial. Neem oil is beneficial. Oregano oil, black seed oil, witch hazel. So witch hazel would be, you wouldn't need to do anything with that. You can just literally put it on the sore wherever you have the sore, and make sure you wash your hands well before and afterwards. Any of the oils you'd want to make sure, tea tree oil, you'd want to make sure that you dilute in either a carrier oil. So it could be olive oil, it could be coconut oil, because of course coconut oil is really healthy for us. Or you might want to dilute it in some jojoba oil, or grapeseed oil or something like that. And obviously sleep. Sleep is the time when your body restores and replenishes. So I know sleep can be hard to come by during menopause, whether you're waking up from anxiety or hot flushes or night sweats, or just that busy brain, or the sort of twitchy legs, joint pain. Sleep can be really hard to get a really full night's sleep. And if you get bossy with yourself and really apply some sleep hygiene, you'll find that it's actually quite surprising how much you can improve your sleep. But I do appreciate how difficult it is. Sleep is one of those things that I was plagued with for years. At the moment, I'm not sleeping particularly well. I've just got a very, very busy brain. It's because I've got several big business things that are going on at the moment, and I just can't turn it off. But I know once things sort of smooth out a little, and I've reached a few of the deadlines that I've set for myself, sleep will hopefully come back and improve a bit. But I honestly, I am so bossy with myself around sleep. A darkened room, cool room. I don't work on the computer after 8 o'clock unless I absolutely have to. And if I do, I know I'm going to have a really poor night's sleep. I try and get off the computer by 6 p.m. these days. Get to bed early, because I'm sure that the hours before midnight count for so much more than the hours after midnight. No sugary stuff before bed. Try and eat a bit earlier. All these sort of obvious things to help improve the chance of sleep. And also, one of the most important things you can do is get out into the daylight within sort of 20 to 30 minutes of first waking up, because that sets your circadian rhythm. When you get to the end of the day, your melatonin, which is the hormone that helps you sleep, if you've had sunlight or daylight exposure in the morning, your melatonin is starting to secrete properly before you get ready for bed, so that by the time you get to bed, you've got enough melatonin, and that then helps you sleep better. Incidentally, melatonin, or the precursor for melatonin, is serotonin, which is one of your happy hormones that I mentioned earlier, which is tightly linked to your gut health. So another reason to eat your sauerkraut or your fermented foods is to help you with your sleep, because when you've got good serotonin levels, you will also have better melatonin levels. And make sure you're taking a vitamin D3 supplement, ideally with a K2. So K2, just essentially, I'm not going to go into any great detail now, but it makes sure that the calcium that you're getting from your food, from the daylight, from the vitamin D, etc., goes into your bones where you need it to be, not your lungs and your arteries. So vitamin D3 with K2. And then onto the topical creams. Acyclovir is probably the most common one. You can buy that from the pharmacy or indeed from the supermarkets. You do not need to buy the branded versions, which are normally twice the price of the unbranded one. Just make sure it's got the same active ingredients in it, normally about 5%, and that will be what you need in order to, as soon as you sense that tingling, to get that onto the cold sore. You might find once you use it that it makes the cold sore weep a little bit. Just dab it off and probably put some more back on again. Onto some DIY holistic recipes. One would be a combination of castor oil, ideally manuka honey, a drop of tea tree oil. Make sure that it is diluted. And that will be moisturizing and soothing, anti-inflammatory and mildly antiviral. And that's the sort of thing you'd want to put on at night time. The other recipe is coconut oil, witch hazel, neem oil. The neem oil would be diluted in the coconut oil, and you could apply that for a little while. That would combine antiviral, soothing, and antimicrobial properties to the cold sore. Always patch test first if you don't use essential oils. Make sure that whatever essential oils you use, you do dilute. Apply it as soon as you get the first tingle, because it will help to reduce the lifespan of the development of that herpes. And you can also layer just maybe witch hazel by itself or B12 cream for extra soothing properties. Lifestyle strategies include stress relief as much as you can, or stress management, although that can be difficult. Things like deep breathing, meditation, yoga, walking in nature. Find what works best for you. Hugging trees, going barefoot, although it's a bit chilly at the moment. You might love cold plunging into the sea. We all respond differently to these things, and just because it works for one person doesn't mean to say it's going to work for you. For me, meditation, I'm absolutely hopeless at, and it's not something I'd really waste my time trying to do. I know there are other things that work so much better for me, and so you just need to make sure that you find the thing that, or the things that work best for you. A few common questions is, can you get rid of it completely? Not really. You're still going to have the eruption of the cold sore. If it's tingling, it's going to come, but you can significantly reduce how long it lasts, and you can also significantly reduce how bad that cold sore develops. You will be contagious, particularly in the early stages of the cold sore, so no smooching. Antibiotics will not work because it is a virus and not a bacterial problem. And menopause can make it worse because of the thinning of the mucous membranes, the reduction in your immunity, the fact that your receptors on the cells are not as effective as they used to be. And finally, don't feel ashamed of them. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Loads of people get them. A lot of people will get them and not admit to having them. And it is just one of those things. They are there, they lurk. You can even get the herpes showing on different parts of your body. It doesn't need to be your mouth, your nose, your genitals. It can be on your legs. It can be on your arms, and they will still flare up when you're under stress or you're feeling run down. So just be mindful that a lot of people have them, and there are things that you can do to significantly improve the experience of each of those outbreaks that you might get. And following on from this is next week's bacterial vaginosis, because again, it is not anything to be ashamed of. It's not, it can be sexually transmitted, but you don't get it necessarily through sexual transmission. It can be something that can just appear, and because it can be a little bit smelly, it can be uncomfortable. It's one of those things that a lot of women just think, oh, what have I caught? Will it go away? It's just vile. And I think if anything ever goes wrong down below, whether it's cystitis, bacterial vaginosis, you've got a little tear, you just saw, whatever it might be, because it's so centered around your womanhood, I just think it really has a knock-on, really profound knock-on impact as to how you just feel, in yourself. So I will be diving into that next week. So make sure to tune in if it's something you want to learn a bit more about. But thank you so much for your company today. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel, and then you won't miss future episodes. I share a video every Monday at 10 a.m. UK time related to something around menopause. If you have anything that you would like me to cover in a future episode, please just drop it in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to research that and add it to my rotation. Have a great week, and I will look forward to catching you next week.